There is a mind tonight that feels crowded with questions. Thoughts circling like slow-moving clouds across a dim sky. Small worries. Larger decisions. Quiet what-ifs that never quite settle. Behind the eyes there is a gentle ache. Not sharp. Not overwhelming. Just the steady weight of not knowing what to do. Of wishing the next step were clearer. Of longing for an answer that feels simple and kind and sure. All through the day this mind has tried to reason and arrange and solve. Tried to lay out paths and outcomes like stones across a river. Tried to be wise by sheer effort. By replaying conversations. Imagining futures. Weighing every possibility again and again. Yet as night has fallen, the questions have not grown smaller. They have simply grown quieter, heavier, like books on a shelf that the heart is too tired to open. The soul feels the edge of weariness, the sense that its own understanding is not enough. That it needs something gentler, higher, wiser. Take a slow deep breath. Let air drift in through the nose. Cool and soft. Let it fill the chest like a slow rising tide. Then let it fall gently back out through the mouth. As though the whole day is leaning into a long exhale. Let the shoulders soften. Let the muscles along the neck loosen. Let the jaw rest without effort. Another slow breath. In and out. Like waves touching the shore and slipping away again. If these stories bring you peace, take a moment to like this video. Subscribe for more nightly reflections. And share where you're listening from tonight. Your words and presence help keep this space warm and growing. Now, take another slow breath. Let's begin. In a quiet house on the edge of a small town, a single room glows with lamplight. The rest of the world has grown dim. Windows darkened. Streets hushed. But here a gentle flame burns in a simple clay lamp, filling the room with a soft golden haze. Dust motes drift lazily in the light, like tiny stars suspended in still air. Outside, night air rests over fields and rooftops. Inside, there is only hush, warmth, and the sound of slow breathing. On a woven mat near the lamp sits a solitary figure, shoulders slightly bowed, hands resting loosely in their lap. There is no drama in their posture, only quiet tiredness, the weight of all the choices they do not know how to make, the paths they cannot yet see, the questions they cannot answer on their own. They have done all that they can with the strength of their own thoughts. And now the mind feels like a room with too many doors and no clear way forward. The lamplight washes gently across their face, tracing the softness beneath their eyes, the faint furrow between their brows. These are the marks of someone who has tried to carry wisdom alone. Someone who has measured every option and still feels unsure. In the silence, a memory rises quietly within them. A remembered line, once heard, once treasured, A promise that if anyone lacks wisdom, they are invited to ask the one who gives freely, who does not push away for asking too often, who does not sigh at repeated questions, but gives generously, gently, without reproach. The promise feels almost too simple for such a tangled mind, yet it lingers, like a soft chord held in the background of the night. If any heart feels unsure, if any mind feels clouded and small, it is not asked to pretend to be strong. It is invited to ask, to open, to lean into the wisdom of a God who delights in guiding those who come with empty hands. The traveler on the mat lets this memory rest inside the chest, lets it sit there for a moment like a small lantern held close. The idea is tender and kind. That wisdom is not a prize for the clever, not a reward for those who never falter, but a gift given freely to those who admit they cannot see, to those who say softly in the night, "I do not know what to do, but I am willing to be led." In the quiet bedroom where the listener rests, this same invitation hovers near. The body begins to grow heavier against the bed. The heart feels a faint stirring of relief at the thought of not needing to carry everything alone. Wisdom is not something wrestled from the world by force. It is something received from the heart of God, who knows every path, every turn, every hidden detail of the roads ahead, who delights in shining gentle light where there has only been shadow. Take another slow breath. Let the inhale rise like soft glow filling the space behind the ribs. Let the exhale fall like evening mist settling over quiet ground. Let the thoughts begin to walk more slowly. Let the tightness around the mind start to loosen. There is no need to solve anything in this moment, only to rest in the presence of the one who understands all things. The lamplight continues to burn softly. The traveler watches the flame, eyes half-lidded, feeling the first hint of peace slip in between the crowded thoughts. The questions are still there, but their edges are softening, as if a gentle hand has begun to smooth the tangled threads, making room for quiet, making room for trust, making room for the simple act of asking. Outside, the night deepens. Inside, the soul stands at a threshold, between the strain of self-reliance and the rest of entrusting the mind to God. The promise still whispers in the background of the heart. If any of you lacks wisdom, ask. Ask the one who gives freely. Ask the one who will not turn away. The gentle hush of the night settles more deeply into the small room. A stillness so soft it feels woven into the lamplight itself. The traveler sits quietly, breath slowing, thoughts beginning to untangle as though guided by unseen hands. The weight of the day loosens its hold on their shoulders, not all at once, but in slow, delicate threads. The kind of release that happens only when the heart begins to feel safe. Safe enough to rest. Safe enough to ask. Safe enough to be honest in the presence of God. The room is simple. A clay lamp glowing on a low wooden table. A woven mat beneath the traveler's legs. A single window cracked open to let the night air drift inside. From outside comes the faint murmur of rustling leaves. A quiet whisper carried by the breeze. Soft, steady, soothing. Every sound seems gentler now, as though the world has lowered its voice in reverence for the soul seeking wisdom. The traveler closes their eyes, not out of fatigue, but to find the stillness beneath the surface of their thoughts, to listen for the quiet current that flows below worry, below planning, below the layers of their own reasoning. They breathe in deeply, letting their lungs fill with cool night air, then exhale in a slow release that eases tightness from the chest. Another breath follows, even slower, even softer, and something in the traveler's mind begins to quiet. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale drift gently into the body like warm light entering a dim corridor. Let the exhale fall loose and unhurried. Allow the thoughts to settle like dust drifting toward the earth. Let the mind soften into quiet. Let your heart find the beginning of rest. Another slow breath. Here, in this soft quiet, the traveler begins to feel the presence of something greater. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady, like a warm hand resting near them without touching. A nearness that speaks without sound. A comfort that comes simply from knowing they are not alone with their questions. For wisdom does not begin with answers. It begins with presence, with slowing, with letting the heart become still enough to listen. The lamp's flame shifts slightly, a small breath of brightness, then steadies again. Its glow presses gently against the clay walls, painting them with soft amber tones that make the room feel warmer, safer. The traveler lets their gaze fall to the floor, watching shadows stretch in long quiet shapes, noticing how the darkness between them feels softer than usual, less like an obstacle, more like a resting place. In this quiet space, the traveler becomes aware of a simple truth taking shape inside. That wisdom is not found in frantic searching, nor in relentless analysis, but in stillness, in openness, in the quiet posture of a heart willing to be taught. Their fingers uncurl in their lap, a small sign of release, of surrender. The muscles in their shoulders lower by just a breath. The air around them feels warmer, as if the presence of God has drawn closer in response to the traveler's quiet openness. A soft memory rises. A moment from childhood when they watched an elder pause before speaking, not rushing to answer, but closing their eyes, breathing slow, listening inwardly before offering a word of guidance. Back then the traveler had not known what they were witnessing, but now they understand. It was not hesitation. It was reverence, a holy space created for wisdom to arrive. In the listener's quiet room, this same invitation begins to unfold. The body grows heavier against the bed. The breath becomes deeper. The heart begins to loosen its grip on the day's questions. The mind enters that sacred space where God whispers gently into the open soul. Another slow breath. Let the inhale fill your chest with warmth. Let the exhale release the noise within the mind. Let your thoughts fall into stillness. Let your soul become receptive to the wisdom God longs to give. The traveler feels the shift clearly now. A sense of preparing, of entering a place where clarity can finally reach them, where the heart is no longer crowded by noise, where the mind is no longer pressured to understand everything at once. The night deepens. The room settles. The traveler's spirit begins to open. Here, in the quiet, they begin the journey of seeking wisdom, not through striving, but through surrender, through stillness, through listening for the voice of God in the hush between breaths. The quiet inside the room grows deeper, a soft, enveloping stillness that settles around the traveler like a warm cloak. Their breath slows into a gentle rhythm, each inhale a small lifting of the chest, each exhale a long, unhurried release, and with every breath, a little more space opens inside the mind, space that was not there before, space where wisdom may one day rest. But first, the heart must speak its truth. The traveler keeps their eyes closed, head bowed slightly, hands resting loosely in their lap, and within that posture lives a quiet confession. They do not understand the path before them. They do not know which step to take. They cannot untangle the knot of questions by their own strength. Behind the calm of their breath is the ache of uncertainty, a gentle ache, not sharp, not frantic, but steady, like a small weight pressing softly behind the ribs. This ache is familiar. It comes from wanting to do what is right, wanting to choose wisely, wanting to honor God in the choices they make. But not knowing how, not yet, not without help. A soft breeze drifts in through the open window, carrying with it the scent of night air and distant earth. The curtains move just slightly, a gentle sway as though the night is breathing along with the traveler. Everything around them seems to whisper the same quiet truth. Wisdom is not born in certainty. Wisdom is born in humility, in the honest admission that the heart is limited, that the mind cannot see what God sees, that the soul was designed to be guided. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale rise through the chest like cool air moving across still water. Let the exhale fall soft and heavy. Let the heart loosen. Let the worry ease. Another slow breath, smoothing the edges of the mind. Inside the traveler, something begins to shift, not outwardly, but deep in the quiet core of their being. A small tenderness emerges, a gentle longing they had not allowed themselves to feel fully until now, the longing to be led, to be guided by wisdom greater than their own, to receive insight not born of analysis, but born of God's kindness. Their fingers move slightly, the faintest curl, a tiny tremor of vulnerability, a sign that the traveler is finally allowing themselves to feel the weight of their confusion, to acknowledge the place inside that aches for understanding, for clarity, for guidance that makes the path ahead less overwhelming. Images drift softly across their mind, moments from earlier in the week when the heart tightened with indecision, when choices felt like crossroads, when every option carried its own uncertainty. They recall the heaviness that settled over them then, the silent fear of choosing wrong, of disappointing themselves, of stepping outside God's will unknowingly. But now, in the dim lamplight, that fear begins to soften, not because answers have come, but because the traveler is no longer pretending to hold all things together alone. Wisdom does not come to the proud, nor to the self-reliant. It comes to the heart that surrenders, the heart that says quietly, "I do not know, but I am willing to be shown." In the listener's quiet room, this same tender surrender may begin to rise, a soft ache behind the ribs, a loosened breath, a gentle awareness that it is okay not to know everything. It is okay to ask, to seek, to depend on God for what the heart cannot yet see. Another slow breath. Let the inhale bring in hope. Let the exhale release the pressure to understand everything tonight. Let your heart settle into openness. Let your soul rest in the space where wisdom may soon arrive. Back in the small room, the traveler lifts their face slightly, still with eyes closed, but with a new quiet courage blooming within. They are ready to ask, not with perfect words, not with confidence, but with humility, with longing, with the soft honesty of a heart that desires to walk in the light of God's understanding. The lamplight flickers gently, as though honoring the shift unfolding in the traveler's spirit, a shift from self-reliance to divine dependence, from uncertainty carried alone to uncertainty offered into God's capable hands. The heart that wants to understand is taking its first true step, not toward answers, but toward the one who gives them, freely, generously, without reproach. The lamplight softens into a warm, golden halo. Its gentle glow dances quietly along the clay walls, stretching across the traveler's face with a tenderness that mirrors the moment unfolding in their spirit. A moment of quiet openness, a moment of surrender, a moment where the heart finally whispers its longing for wisdom, not with urgency, but with humility, with the honest recognition that it cannot walk forward without divine light. The traveler keeps their eyes closed, letting the stillness hold them, letting the warmth settle across their shoulders, letting the room become a quiet sanctuary of listening, of waiting, of longing for guidance that only God can give. Within the gentle hush of the night, a single promise rises softly through their memory, a whisper from Scripture that has waited patiently in the background of their heart, waiting for a moment like this. If any of you lacks wisdom, ask God, who gives generously to all, without reproach. The words drift into the quiet room like a soft breeze, warm, comforting, deeply familiar. The traveler lets them settle inside, lets them echo gently beneath the ribs, letting each phrase unfurl its meaning in slow, delicate waves. If any of you lacks wisdom, there is no shame in that admission, no disappointment from heaven, only invitation, only kindness, only an open door into divine understanding. Ask God, not because He withholds, but because He delights in being sought, because wisdom begins not with knowing, but with asking, with turning the heart toward the one who sees all paths clearly, who gives generously to all, not sparingly, not reluctantly, not conditionally, but generously, overflowingly, with a fullness shaped by compassion and love, without reproach, without judgment, without impatience, without reminding the seeker of past mistakes or failed attempts. God gives wisdom with a heart that never tires of guiding His children, never grows weary of their questions, never sighs at their uncertainty. The traveler breathes in deeply, letting these truths become warm inside them, letting the promise rise like lamplight lifting in the dark. Their inhale expands the chest. Their exhale releases a quiet tremor, a soft, emotional recognition that God is not disappointed in their confusion, not frustrated by their lack of clarity, but ready, eager, patient, generous with the wisdom they seek. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale rise like a gentle tide entering the heart. Let the exhale fall like soft wind settling through tall grass. Allow the promise to rest inside you. Allow your heart to become soft enough to receive. Another slow breath, warm, releasing. The traveler bows their head slightly, not in shame, but in reverence, in gratitude for a God who listens before being asked, who draws near when the mind feels clouded, who meets confusion not with distance, but with compassion. in the dim quiet of the listener's room. The same promise hangs tenderly in the air, an invitation for the weary mind, an offer for the heart that wavers between choices, a gentle reassurance that God's guidance is not reserved for the wise, but given to the humble, the honest, the ones who simply come and ask. The traveler lets the scripture deepen its roots within, feeling each word soften the tightness in their chest, feeling the pressure of decision begin to loosen, feeling the fear of choosing wrong begin to fade. Wisdom is not earned, it is given, freely, kindly, generously. A small tear forms at the corner of their eye, not from sorrow, but from relief, the relief of knowing they do not need to navigate life by their own dim light, that God Himself is willing to guide their steps, to illuminate their path, to share His wisdom with a heart willing to receive it. The lamplight flickers softly, casting warm waves of glow across the room, almost as if the flame itself is nodding in affirmation of the truth spoken over the traveler's spirit. Wisdom is near, closer than fear, gentler than uncertainty, a gift wrapped in divine generosity, waiting to be asked for, waiting to be received, in the listener's heart. A quiet hope may begin to rise, a confidence shaped not by answers, but by God's character, by His kindness, by the steady reassurance that He is ready to pour wisdom into open hands. The traveler inhales once more, deeply, and lets the exhale melt into stillness. Their heart whispers a small, sacred truth: I believe you will guide me. And the night around them seems to grow warmer, softer, as though heaven itself has leaned close to honor that whisper. The quiet room seems to breathe with the traveler now, each inhale drawing in the soft warmth of lamplight, each exhale releasing another thread of tension into the still night air. The scripture's promise lingers gently beneath their ribs, not loud, not insistent, but steady, like a quiet pulse reminding them that wisdom is not far, not hidden, not reserved only for those who already understand. It waits for the seeking heart, the open spirit, the one who admits, with tenderness, that it cannot see clearly on its own. The traveler's shoulders relax further, the tightness at the base of the neck softens, and the mind, which had been clouded with countless questions just moments before, begins to quiet, begins to open, begins to feel the first softening of peace. It is subtle at first, a faint lightness behind the eyes, a tiny easing in the space between thoughts, a loosening of the knot that had twisted itself around the traveler's worries. Wisdom has not yet arrived, but the soil of the heart is being prepared for it, made gentle, made fertile, made still enough to receive. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale glide into the chest like warm water filling a calm basin. Let the exhale drift out like a soft breeze slipping across a quiet hillside. Let your breath soothe the mind. Let it smooth the inner noise. Let it soften the places where thoughts tangle tightly. Another slow breath, warm, unhurried. The traveler shifts slightly on the mat, not out of discomfort, but to follow the natural movement of relaxation spreading through the body. Arms resting loosely, back softening into the woven fibers beneath them. Their entire posture blooming outward from tension to openness, from pressure to peace. The mind, once crowded with heavy thoughts, begins to feel spacious, as though the walls inside have widened, as though room has been made for something new to enter. A clarity that does not feel forced. A peace that does not demand immediate answers, but gently assures the traveler that the answers will come, in God's time, in God's way, through God's steady generosity, in the dim quiet of the listener's room. This same softening may begin to take root, a gentle easing in the forehead, a slight release in the chest, a sense that the questions weighing on the mind are no longer crushing, no longer demanding to be solved this very moment. Wisdom often begins not with solutions, but with calm, with stillness, with the easing of inner pressure. The traveler opens their hands in their lap, palms up, a gesture of receiving, a small surrender that whispers without words, My understanding is limited, but my heart is open. Teach me, guide me, lead me. The lamplight glows warmly across their fingers, catching the soft curve of their palms, highlighting the trust rising within the gesture. Even before wisdom arrives, peace begins its gentle work. Another slow breath. Let the inhale bring in soft, warm clarity. Let the exhale wash out the remnants of mental strain. Let the body settle deeper. Let the heart grow steadier. Let the mind rest in this sacred quiet. Inside the traveler's chest, something begins to uncoil. The long-held tension from days of overthinking, from trying to make perfect choices with imperfect knowledge, from attempting to see the entire path when only the next step truly matters. A small sense of relief blooms quietly, a soft awareness that they do not need to rush understanding. They do not need to control every outcome. They do not need to have all answers before taking the next breath. Wisdom is coming, not through force, not through frantic searching, but through surrender, through the gentle opening of a heart willing to be led. The traveler tilts their face toward the lamp's warm glow, eyes still closed, breath deep and peaceful. They feel the first quiet touch of clarity brushing against the edges of their mind. Not answers, but readiness. A softened space where God's wisdom will soon rest. In the stillness that surrounds them, the traveler senses a whisper rising from deep within, a recognition as gentle as the lamplight itself. I do not have to understand everything. I only have to listen. And with that thought, the path to wisdom begins to open, softly, slowly, like dawn touching the horizon. The lamplight flickers softly, its warm glow moving like a slow breath across the quiet room. The traveler sits in that gentle radiance, head bowed slightly, hands resting open in their lap, and something tender begins to unfold inside them. A letting go, a loosening of the inner grip they've held for so long. The unburdening is not dramatic, not sudden, but soft, gradual, like a tightly wound thread finally beginning to unwind. For many days, perhaps longer, the traveler has carried a quiet pressure. Within, the pressure to choose correctly, to understand everything at once, to be wise by sheer strength of mind. But now, in the hush of this peaceful room, that pressure begins to ease, to melt, to slip from the chest like warm sand pouring through open fingers. The traveler exhales, a long, gentle release that feels like truth leaving the lungs. A truth they have avoided admitting even to themselves, that they cannot hold all their questions alone, that their own understanding is not enough, that their mind is tired from carrying what was never meant to be held without God. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale lift softly beneath the ribs, like a warm tide rising against the shore. Let the exhale fall long and slow, releasing the weight that has pressed behind your heart. Let the body relax. Let the thoughts drift. Let the soul open to rest. Another slow breath, unhurried, freeing. The traveler's shoulders sink lower. The space between their eyebrows softens. Their breath falls into a gentler rhythm, as though the body itself is relieved to stop striving. The room around them grows even quieter, even softer, as if it too is participating in this sacred release. The release of burdens carried in silence. Inside the traveler's chest, a tender vulnerability rises, a quiet confession forming in the heart before it ever reaches the lips. I don't know what to do, and that's okay. I don't have to pretend to see clearly. I don't need to be wise on my own. This is the unburdening, the moment when the soul stops tightening around its own understanding, the moment when humility becomes freedom, when honesty becomes rest, when the heart finally lets go of the illusion that it must figure everything out alone. In the listener's quiet space, a similar release may begin to unfold, a soft loosening of tension across the chest, a gentle easing behind the eyes, a feeling that maybe, just maybe, they do not have to solve everything tonight, that God's wisdom is not something they must earn or chase, but something they can receive, with open hands, with a quiet heart. with trust, another slow breath. Let the inhale bring warmth into the places that felt cold with worry. Let the exhale carry out the pressure to understand everything now. Feel the soul ease into openness. Feel the mind settle into surrender. Feel the heart release what it has carried too long. The traveler places a hand over their chest. Not deliberately, not thoughtfully, but instinctively, as though supporting something tender, as though comforting their own heart while God gently lifts the burden from it. Their fingers rest lightly against the fabric, feeling the slow, softened rhythm of their breath, a rhythm that whispers of peace, of calm, of surrender. A quiet warmth spreads beneath their palm, not from the lamp, not from the air, but from the nearness of God, a presence slowly filling the empty spaces created by release, a warmth that settles like gentle hands supporting a weary soul, whispering without sound. You do not have to carry this alone. The traveler's throat tightens with emotion, not from sadness, but from the relief of finally letting go. They bow their head a little lower, and in the quiet space between breaths, a fragile whisper slips through the heart. I'm tired of holding this. Please take it from me. And heaven answers, not with words, but with peace. A peace that descends slowly, tenderly, a peace that settles over the traveler's shoulders like warm cloth, a peace that wraps around the heart like soft embrace, a peace that assures them their surrender is received, that their burden is now resting in hands far more capable than their own. This is the gentle unburdening, the sacred exchange where worry is released and peace takes its place, where confusion loosens and calm settles deeper, where the soul finally finds room to breathe, to rest, to receive. The room grows even quieter, a stillness so deep it feels almost like a tender embrace, the kind of silence that doesn't make the traveler feel alone, but held, protected, cradled in a presence that fills the air with gentle warmth. The unburdening of a moment ago leaves the traveler lighter, softer, more open than they have been in a very long time, and into that openness, something begins to enter, not loudly, not suddenly, but with the softness of dawn light filtering through morning mist. The traveler's breath settles into a steady rhythm. Inhale, slow and warm. Exhale, long and unhurried. The air feels different now, less heavy, less crowded. The mind, which was once tangled with overthinking and spiraling thoughts, begins to expand again. Space opens behind the eyes. Clarity not yet formed, but possible, like the first clearing of fog just before sunrise. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale drift into your chest like warm air entering a quiet sanctuary. Let the exhale fall through your body like soft water running over smooth stone. Let your thoughts slow. Let the inner noise soften. Let the heart settle deeper into calm. Another slow breath, gentle, grounding. The traveler lifts their face slightly, though their eyes remain closed. It is not an act of searching outward, but an instinctive movement toward the inner quiet that has begun to form. The noise inside, the swirling thoughts, the looping worries, the pressure to choose correctly, has started to fade, dissolving into a hush where wisdom can finally breathe. It is in this stillness that the traveler begins to sense something new, a quiet presence that feels like a warm hand resting lightly on the crown of their head, a peace that seems to settle along the spine with reassuring weight, a nearness that meets them not with answers, but with calm, a calm so deep it begins to quiet every anxious corner of the mind. This is the opening of the quiet mind, a sacred place where overthinking loses its power, where questions no longer shout, where fear no longer clouds the heart, where wisdom can finally approach without needing to compete with noise. The lamplight flickers gently across the room, casting soft waves of amber over the traveler's shoulders. The shadows stretch slowly, gently, as if they too are settling into stillness. The entire space feels softened, wrapped in a peace that goes beyond understanding, a peace that doesn't depend on solved problems or clear direction, but simply flows from God's nearness. in the listener's quiet room, this same sacred shift may begin to rise, a softening behind the forehead, the slow unwinding of mental tension, a warm sensation settling beneath the ribs, a sense that your mind no longer needs to chase every answer, that you can rest enough for wisdom to enter softly, without force, without fear, without pressure. Another slow breath. Let the inhale bring cool clarity. Let the exhale sweep out the remnants of noise. Let your mind quiet. Let your heart open. Let the stillness deepen. The traveler's hands rest open now, palms facing upward, not out of ritual, but from the natural posture of a soul no longer gripping its own understanding. Their fingers curl gently. Their thumbs relax. The hands become vessels, ready to receive, ready to feel whatever God chooses to place within them. Inside the traveler's chest, a new sensation begins to rise. Soft, warm, illuminating. Not wisdom fully formed, not answers spelled out clearly, but the early stages of clarity, the beginning of understanding, a gentle sorting of thoughts, a quiet aligning of desires, a subtle awareness that God's presence is beginning to organize the inner world, not through reasoning, but through peace. It feels like a whisper, a gentle voice speaking not in words, but in calm, in warmth, in the softening of anxiety, in the stilling of fear. This is how wisdom often first approaches, not as instruction, but as peace. Peace that makes room for insight to come. The traveler breathes it in, and with each inhale, the mind grows quieter, and with each exhale, the heart grows steadier, until they rest in a quiet space where wisdom feels possible, near, waiting to be given. The quiet inside the small room deepens into something almost sacred, a hush so gentle it feels as though even the lamplight has softened its glow, as though the air itself is holding its breath in reverence. The traveler sits in this tender stillness, hands resting open, shoulders loosened, breath slow and warm, and for the first time in a long while, the mind does not race ahead, does not pull backward, does not loop and coil around old fears. It simply rests, calm, open, receptive. The questions that once pressed so heavily against the traveler's thoughts now feel distant, not erased, not ignored, but quieted, gently set aside in the presence of peace. They drift like soft silhouettes at the edge of awareness, no longer demanding immediate attention, no longer gripping the heart with urgency. For the soul has entered a deeper space, a space where wisdom begins to draw near, where understanding is not forced, but gently received. A faint breeze slips through the window, cool and steady, carrying with it the soft scent of earth and night air. The curtains lift and fall in slow waves, mirroring the traveler's breath. Everything moves with calm, everything whispers rest, everything invites the mind into deeper quiet. For wisdom rarely enters the crowded mind. It arrives when the heart grows still enough to hear. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale draw warmth into the chest like light pooling at the bottom of a lantern. Let the exhale drift out like a soft wind flowing over calm water. Let your thoughts loosen. Let your spirit grow soft. Let the quiet become the soil where wisdom can rest. Another slow breath, smooth, weightless. The traveler tilts their head just slightly, a subtle motion born not of searching, but of sensing, as though a gentle whisper has begun to form in the silence around them. Not words, not sentences, but an impression, a shift in the atmosphere, a sense of something wholly drawing near to the softened edges of their mind. It is here, in this deep, sacred quiet, that the traveler begins to understand a truth the world often forgets. Wisdom does not rush. Wisdom does not shout. Wisdom does not push its way into the frantic heart. Wisdom comes when the noise has fallen away, when the soul is resting, when the heart has laid down its urgency and grown still enough to hear God's gentle voice. The traveler's breath grows even slower, the chest lifting with the softness of a breeze passing over a field at dusk. the exhale falling like light settling over a quiet hillside. The space behind their eyes widens, the inner fog begins to clear, and the first delicate sense of God's guidance stirs within. The lamplight flickers gently against the wall, casting faint waves of gold that ripple through the room like warm water. The shadows move slowly, softened at the edges, as if touched by peace. Nothing in the room feels sharp or urgent. Everything has the tender roundness of a moment held by God's care. In the listener's quiet room, a similar stillness may begin to gather, a softening behind the ribs, a release of pressure at the temples, a growing sense that the heart is entering a space where wisdom can finally touch it, not with commands, but with comfort, not with tension, but with clarity wrapped in peace. Another slow breath. Let the inhale warm your chest like lamplight touching your skin. Let the exhale slow your thoughts into a gentle drift. Feel the quiet deepen. Feel the heart open wider. Feel the mind soften into a place where wisdom can be heard. Inside the traveler's chest, a new stillness begins to take shape, not empty, but full of possibility, of readiness, of the gentle expectation that God is near. Near enough to guide, near enough to illuminate, near enough to rest wisdom within the heart like a soft seed planted in fertile soil. A small thought rises, not loud, not forced, more like a feather landing gently in the center of the mind. Be still, and you will know. The traveler's breath trembles softly at this impression, not from fear, but from recognition, from the quiet joy of feeling God's presence speaking without sound, of realizing that wisdom does not always begin with information. Sometimes it begins with calm, with peace, with a mind quiet enough to receive what God longs to give. The traveler remains motionless for a long moment, breathing, listening, resting in the deep quiet that feels like the threshold of understanding, the beginning of hearing clearly, the sacred space where God readies the heart for guidance. The stillness in the room settles even deeper now. A soft, velvety quiet that feels almost luminous from within, as though some gentle light has begun to rise, not around the traveler, but inside them. A warm shimmer just beneath the ribs. Subtle, tender, steady. The first glow of understanding, not yet wisdom fully formed, but the soft light that comes before wisdom, the tender illumination that prepares the soul to see clearly. The traveler remains with eyes closed, breath slow and warm, body resting loosely on the woven mat. And within that calm, something begins to brighten gently. Not a thought, not a solution, not an answer to every question swirling in their mind, but a quiet knowing. A peace shaped like light, a reassurance that wisdom is on its way, approaching gently, drawing near like dawn over a sleeping valley. The lamplight flickers softly, its golden glow reflecting the inner glow rising within the traveler. The flame's gentle sway seems to echo the steady pulse of peace forming in the depths of their chest. The shadows on the wall soften until they feel like extensions of the light itself. Nothing in the room feels sharp now. Nothing presses. Nothing burdens. Everything has been wrapped in a warm, gentle clarity that has no urgency. Only presence. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale glow through the chest like the very first hint of morning. Let the exhale fall like quiet mist settling over a calm field. Feel the warmth rise inside you. Feel the mind soften around the edges. Feel the heart opening to receive. Another slow breath. Gentle. Luminous. Inside the traveler's mind, the fog that once crowded every thought begins to thin. Wisps dissolving at the edges, revealing pockets of openness where clarity can rest. The questions are still there, but they no longer feel like obstacles. They feel like spaces waiting to be filled with God's gentle light. The traveler lifts their face a little, as though drawn toward something warm, something assuring. The beginnings of wisdom feel like a soft glow resting just above their thoughts, not yet descending fully, but shimmering close, close enough for the traveler to sense its warmth, close enough to bring comfort, close enough to quiet fear. It feels like watching dawn approach from behind closed eyes. The light not yet visible, but undeniably near. A presence expanding through the mind. Gentle, patient, kind. In the listener's room, a similar glow may gently rise. A warmth blooming quietly behind the heart. A softening in the breath. A subtle ease in the space between thoughts. The sense that clarity is forming, not through effort, but through peace. A quiet knowing that God's wisdom draws near, not like a sudden blaze, but like steady morning light. Soft, warm, revealing. Another slow breath. Let the inhale carry light deeper into the chest. Let the exhale soften the space behind your eyes. Let the glow settle gently within you. Let it prepare the heart for understanding. Back on the woven mat, the traveler rests fully now. A sense of calm radiating gently from within their chest. The inner light grows warmer, not bright, not overwhelming, but comforting. A warm presence that begins to nudge thoughts into gentle alignment, pulling scattered pieces together, softening what was once tangled, illuminating the first steps of clarity. This illumination does not explain everything. It does not reveal the entire path. It simply lights the next small space. Enough for the heart to breathe. Enough for the mind to settle. Enough for wisdom to begin its gentle descent. The traveler feels the shift like a lantern being lit within them. A tender radiance warming the mind from the inside out. Their breath deepens. Their posture softens. Their spirit leans into the glow with quiet trust. As though whispering inwardly, "I feel your guidance coming." And in response, the inner light grows a touch brighter, a touch warmer, a touch closer. The first soft light of understanding, the beginning of clarity's approach, the gentle stirring of God's wisdom drawing near. The warm glow inside the traveler begins to gather more fully now, not rushing, not overwhelming, but concentrating gently, as though the soft light that had hovered near the edges of their mind has begun to step forward, nearer, closer, settling with tender confidence into the quiet center of the traveler's being. Wisdom is drawing near, not as a flash of brilliance, but as presence, as peace, as a soft, guiding light touching the deepest part of the heart. The traveler inhales slowly, the breath rising, like warm air lifted by a gentle flame, then exhales with a calm that carries surrender, openness, trust. Their posture softens, their shoulders relax, their entire body seems to lean subtly toward the inner glow, instinctively recognizing God's nearness. The nearness of a wisdom that does not intimidate or scold, but comforts, reassures, illuminates. The lamplight in the room flickers softly along the walls. Golden shadows sway in slow arcs, creating a dance of warm shapes that move like a whisper, like breath, like something holy entering gently into earthly space. The room feels different now, not just quiet, but sacred, a place where divine understanding is slowly beginning to unfold. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale rise through your chest like warm light filling a lantern. Let the exhale drift out like a sigh that has waited long to be released. Feel the warmth gather, feel the stillness deepen. Feel wisdom approaching like dawn softening the horizon. Another slow breath, warm, centering. Inside the traveler's heart, something subtle shifts. The soft inner light that had been a gentle shimmer begins to take shape. It presses tenderly into the spaces where confusion once lived, not with force, but with invitation, as if offering clarity without demanding it, as if saying, "Here, let me bring understanding. Let me show you what you could not see alone." The traveler opens their palms wider in their lap, a natural gesture of receiving. Breath deepening with each moment, mind growing quieter. The beginning of insight gathers like a warm cloud, a presence that does not need words to be understood, a guidance that flows not through thought, but through peace. It feels like the very first moment of sunrise, the world still dim, but touched with light, the darkness still present, but softened, transformed by the promise of illumination. In the listener's quiet room, the same hush may settle, a gentle warmth blooming beneath the sternum, a sense that something wise and tender is drawing close, filling the heart with calm before filling it with answers. For God's wisdom rarely arrives with noise, but with quiet certainty, soft alignment, restful assurance. Another slow breath. Let the inhale draw light deeper beneath your ribs. Let the exhale release all remaining strain from your shoulders. Let your whole being become a soft place for wisdom to rest. Back on the woven mat, the traveler lifts their chin slightly. The movement is small, barely noticeable, but deeply meaningful, a sign of recognition, a sign that they feel God's nearness, that they know the moment of guidance is approaching. The warmth within them gathers at the center of the chest, a quiet glow becoming a gentle flame, and with that flame comes the first sensation of clarity, a soft clarity that whispers rather than commands, a clarity shaped like peace rather than pressure. Their breath deepens again, a slow inhale, a long, peaceful exhale. The mind opens like a flower responding to morning light. The edges of confusion soften, the tangled thoughts begin to part, as though a gentle hand is clearing a path through the thicket of their worries, creating room for wisdom to move freely. The traveler feels it clearly, wisdom drawing near, not as a sudden answer, but as presence, as calm, as the soft voice of God drawing close to speak in the quiet, to guide with tenderness, to lead with peace. Their heart whispers a fragile truth inwardly, "I'm ready to hear you," and the warmth expands gently, filling the chest, filling the breath, filling the entire room with a sense of divine nearness. Wisdom is at the doorstep of the soul, ready to illuminate what once was clouded, ready to give generously, just as the promise said. This is the moment wisdom begins to arrive, quiet, warm, gentle, a tender descent of understanding from the heart of God. The soft warmth inside the traveler expands, not rushing, not flooding, but spreading slowly across the quiet landscape of their soul, a gentle unfolding, a tender illumination that reaches into places once tangled with worry, into corners shadowed by uncertainty, into thoughts that had knotted themselves tight from overthinking. Here, in this sacred stillness, wisdom begins its quiet work, untangling what was bound, soothing what was strained. softening what was rigid, a healing of the mind that comes. Before the clarity of answers, the traveler's breath deepens naturally, the inhale lifting the chest with soft warmth, the exhale melting tension layer by layer. Their posture loosens, their face smooths, the space behind their eyes feels open, spacious, like a quiet valley just after rain, fresh, clean, ready to receive whatever God chooses to plant within it. The lamplight flickers gently, casting slow waves of gold across the traveler's shoulders. Even the shadows seem to rest, long and soft and peaceful, as if they too are releasing their heaviness, as if the entire room is participating in this tender unraveling of worry. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale open your chest like soft dawn spreading over the horizon. Let the exhale loosen the last threads of tension in your mind. Let your whole being ease into stillness. Let the quiet settle around you like a warm blanket. Another slow breath, gentle, releasing. Inside the traveler's mind, something begins to shift. Thoughts that once swirled in circles now begin to settle, not into answers yet, but into soft, open spaces. The inner fog slowly lifts, revealing glimpses of clarity, little openings where wisdom can breathe. The heart feels lighter, the mind feels smoother, as though gentle hands have been untangling invisible knots inside them. This is not the moment of revelation. This is the moment just before, when wisdom begins to prepare the heart, clearing away the clutter of fear, easing the noise of anxious thoughts, restoring inner stillness so understanding can find its way through. The traveler places a hand lightly over their heart, feeling the warmth beneath their palm, not heat from the lamp, but a deeper warmth, a holy warmth that seems to rise from within, a sign that God is near, working gently in the unseen places, whispering peace into every corner of the soul, in the listener's quiet room. A similar shift may begin to bloom, a soft clearing of mental fog, a loosening in the chest, a gentle sense that the worries pulling at the mind are losing their hold, fading into the background, becoming lighter, gentler, quieter, the early work of wisdom unfolding with each peaceful breath. Another slow breath. Let the inhale bring clarity. Let the exhale release confusion. Let your heart rest in this tender untangling. Let your mind settle into peace. The traveler tilts their face upward slightly, not opening their eyes, just lifting the heart a bit closer to the warmth, a subtle act of trust, of readiness, of welcoming whatever God desires to place within them. Their breath grows steady, their thoughts drift gently, and within the quiet, something new emerges. A gentle impression rises in their spirit, a soft nudge, a warm awareness, the kind that does not command, but whispers, the kind that does not explain everything, but eases the weight of not knowing. It feels like God is smoothing the inner world, making a straight path through what once felt tangled and chaotic, a peace that realigns, a calm that clarifies, a quiet touch that begins to untie the knots of worry one by one. The traveler feels it clearly. Worries loosening like threads releasing their tension, questions softening at the edges, the once crowded mind becoming spacious enough for wisdom to breathe. A deepening peace settles into the traveler's chest, a peace that no longer feels fragile, but rooted, steady, enduring. Inside that peace, a gentle truth rises. Wisdom is not always a sudden knowing. Sometimes it is simply the untangling of what once overwhelmed the heart, a gradual opening of clarity, a quiet reordering of thoughts, a tender clearing of the mind so the soul can hear God speak. The traveler exhales softly, a release that feels like letting go of the last threads of confusion. Their heart whispers inwardly, "I feel you helping me see." And the warmth deepens, embracing them, holding them, signaling that wisdom is not far, that God is preparing their heart to receive guidance with peace instead of fear. The soft warmth in the traveler's chest begins to shift, not fading, not dimming, but moving with purpose, flowing through the quiet spaces that have opened inside their mind. as though divine fingers are gently tracing pathways through their thoughts, aligning what was scattered, soothing what was tense, illuminating what was dim. The presence of God feels close now, not hovering at the edges of their awareness, but settling deep within, filling the heart with peace that guides before it speaks. The traveler exhales slowly, a breath that releases something subtle yet profound, the need to control the outcome, the need to rush clarity, the need to solve everything alone. Their body responds immediately, shoulders sinking, chest softening, posture relaxing into an openness shaped by trust. The kind of trust that comes when a soul feels held, supported, guided by a wisdom greater than its own. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale rise like warm light spilling across quiet soil. Let the exhale fall like calm settling over a still lake. Feel the body loosen. Feel the mind open. Feel the heart become still enough to receive. Another slow breath, gentle, steady. The room around the traveler seems softer now, the lamplight low and warm, the shadows long and quiet, the air carrying a hush that feels almost sacred. This is the atmosphere where wisdom begins to move, not as a loud revelation, not as a sudden jolt of understanding, but as peace, as gentle alignment, as the slow shift of inner weight from confusion toward clarity. Inside the traveler, something begins to make sense, not fully, not in detail, but in essence, a feeling that God is directing their thoughts, guiding them toward what is true, what is right, what is peace-producing and burden-lifting. Wisdom does not always come as a bright, complete picture. Sometimes it arrives as a feeling of settledness around one path, and a loosening around others, a quiet steering of the heart toward the way it is meant to go. The traveler feels this gentle steering now, not a push, not a command, but a soft leaning, a subtle turn of the soul toward what aligns with God's peace. Thoughts that once produced tension no longer feel heavy. Options that once felt unclear begin to separate. One path begins to warm inside the chest, another fades into quiet distance. A divine sorting taking place without effort, without fear, without striving. In the listener's quiet room, this same guidance may begin to stir, a gentle clarity forming beneath the surface, a warmth around one thought, a sense of release around another. Wisdom rarely arrives in a rush. It comes as alignment, as peace resting upon the right thing, as the heart leaning naturally toward what God desires. Another slow breath. Let the inhale invite wisdom deeper into your spirit. Let the exhale release every trace of pressure to figure things out alone. Let your mind become a soft place for insight to land. Let your heart follow the path where peace seems to gather. The traveler lifts their face slightly toward the warm glow of the lamp, still with eyes closed, breathing in quiet unity with the stillness around them. They feel the soft movement of wisdom within, a subtle current, a gentle pull, the beginnings of direction forming not through logic, but through peace, through the sense of being quietly guided by God's hand. There is no anxiety in this movement, no urgency, no fear of choosing wrongly, because wisdom, in its truest form, carries peace as its marker, peace that rests, peace that reassures, peace that steadies the soul even before the mind fully understands. A faint whisper forms in the traveler's heart. It's becoming clearer, and heaven responds with deeper calm, a warm assurance that understanding is unfolding exactly as it should, slowly, gently, in the perfect pace of God, not rushed, not forced, simply revealed through peace. This is the guidance that comes with peace, wisdom arriving softly, shaping the heart from the inside out, preparing the traveler to know what they once could not see. The warmth inside the traveler gathers more deeply now, not swirling, not shifting, but settling, rooting itself gently in the quiet center of the heart, a still, steady glow that feels like the beginning of true understanding, as though the light that had hovered softly within finally finds its place, anchoring, illuminating. Resting in a clarity that had long waited to be received, the traveler remains seated in the soft glow of the lamp, eyes closed, breath slow and warm, body released into peaceful openness. And in this deep quiet, something becomes unmistakably clear. Wisdom is no longer far away, no longer something they hope for in the distance. It is here now, present, rising within them like a gentle sunrise at the edges of dawn. They inhale, a slow, steady breath that seems to draw the clarity inward, and on the exhale, a subtle realization unfolds, not loud, not dramatic, but sure, a knowing that rests rather than pushes, a discernment that soothes rather than overwhelms. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale draw light deeply into your chest. Let the exhale melt the last thin threads of confusion. Feel the heart steady. Feel the mind clear. Feel wisdom settling gently within. Another slow breath, peaceful, grounding. Inside the traveler's thoughts, once clouded places begin to brighten. Questions that felt tangled now gently separate. Concerns that once demanded anxious attention begin to ease. And the traveler becomes aware of something beautiful unfolding. They are beginning to know what they could not know before, not through force, not through analysis, but through peace, through presence, through the quiet work of God gently illuminating what needs to be seen. It feels like a lamp has been lit within them. Not so bright that it overwhelms the senses, but just bright enough to reveal the next few steps, enough to quiet fear, enough to bring calm assurance, enough to lift the weight of uncertainty that once sat heavy behind the ribs. Their posture shifts a little, the chin lifting slightly, the back straightening not from effort, but from confidence, a gentle, humble confidence that comes not from self, but from God's nearness, from His generosity in giving wisdom freely, without hesitation, without reproach. In the listener's quiet room, a similar clarity may begin to touch the edges of thought, a sense of knowing rising softly in the heart, not a loud revelation, but a tender understanding, the quiet recognition of what is right, what is wise, what brings peace. This is how God often leads, with wisdom that feels like calm returning to troubled waters, like light resting on still surfaces. Another slow breath. Let the inhale lift hope into your mind. Let the exhale ease your heart into trust. Let clarity soften into your spirit like warm dawn light. Let the soul recognize the wisdom taking form. The traveler rests a hand against their chest, fingers pressing lightly over the warm rhythm beneath, and in that rhythm, in that steady pulse softened by peace, they recognize something sacred. They are no longer confused in the same way as before. The swirling fog has thinned, the heavy uncertainty has lifted, and though not every answer has arrived, one truth has become clear enough to steady them. God has begun to guide, gently, clearly, faithfully. A soft whisper rises inside the traveler's spirit, a quiet acknowledgement born not of certainty, but of trust. I think I understand now. Not everything, not the whole picture, but enough. Enough to know the direction that carries peace. Enough to sense the choice aligned with God's heart. Enough to move without fear. The lamplight glows warmly across their face, illuminating the calm settling over their features. The once furrowed brow relaxed, the eyes softened. Beneath resting lids, the mouth shaped into the faintest expression of peace. Wisdom has begun its gentle work, not by explaining every detail, but by steadying the soul, by revealing what matters most, by giving the heart the understanding it needs for this moment, this step, this night. The soft clarity within the traveler begins to take on a new shape now, not merely a gentle glow, not merely a quiet assurance, but the beginning of a true revelation, a deep, inner knowing that rises not from intellect, but from the nearness of God, a wisdom that moves with warmth rather than force, with peace rather than pressure, with tenderness rather than urgency. The traveler remains still in the quiet room, eyes closed, hands resting open, breath slow and steady. and within their heart, a holy whisper begins to take form, not in words, but in a feeling, a soft illumination of what truly matters, a recognition that brings both peace and direction, a revelation that settles into the soul like a gentle seed planted in fertile soil. The realization is simple, yet profound. Wisdom is not merely knowing what to do. Wisdom is knowing who to trust, who to draw near to, whose presence brings clarity when the mind feels clouded, whose nearness steadies the soul before the answer even arrives. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale rise through the chest like soft radiance filling a quiet valley. Let the exhale fall like warm wind moving gently across still water. Let the heart open fully. Let the mind become quiet enough to hear what is forming within. Another slow breath, tender, grounding. Inside the traveler, the revelation grows warmer, more defined, as though God Himself is shaping understanding in the deepest part of their being. A wisdom that teaches not through explanation, but through presence, through peace, through the quiet conviction that the first step toward clarity is always to draw near to Him. The traveler feels it clearly, the moment they surrendered, the moment they released their need to control, the moment they allowed their heart to rest in God's gentle nearness. Wisdom began to unfold, not because their mind grew stronger, but because their spirit grew softer, because peace replaced panic, because God's light replaced the shadows of doubt. This is the revelation the traveler now holds gently within. Wisdom begins with closeness to God. Guidance begins with intimacy. Clarity begins with surrender. The lamplight glows more warmly now, its golden light moving like a soft breath across the room. The shadows curve gently along the clay walls. Everything in the space seems to echo the same truth unfolding in the traveler's heart. God draws near when His children draw near to Him, and in His nearness, wisdom becomes possible, clear, beautiful, kind, in the listener's quiet room. This same revelation may begin to resonate. A soft warmth beneath the ribs, a gentle easing behind the eyes, a quiet awareness rising with every calm breath, that wisdom is not something to chase. It is something to receive in the presence of the one who gives generously, without reproach, without hesitation, without withholding. Another slow breath. Let the inhale carry light into the heart's deepest places. Let the exhale release the last traces of striving. Let the soul rest in the truth that God is near, near enough to guide, near enough to steady, near enough to reveal what the heart needs to see. The traveler tilts their head slightly upward, not in searching, but in acknowledgement, in recognition of the divine presence filling the space around and within them. The warmth inside grows. Steady, soft, illuminating, and with that warmth comes a deeper understanding. That wisdom flows naturally from a heart aligned with God. That clarity comes when fear subsides. That peace is often the first fragment of revelation. They feel the truth settle into their spirit like a gentle imprint. The path becomes clearer when the heart draws closer to Him. The traveler breathes this in, a slow, reverent inhale, and on the exhale, the soul quiets into a deeper calm, a quiet assurance that they are being taught from within, taught by a wisdom shaped in heaven, a wisdom that cannot be forced, only received through stillness, through nearness, through trust. This is the quiet revelation, the holy moment where wisdom begins to shine through peace, where the soul begins to understand what the mind alone could not grasp, where the heart learns that drawing near to God is the first, truest step toward clarity. The warmth inside the traveler settles into a deeper, steadier glow, no longer rising and retreating like a soft tide, no longer shifting with uncertainty, but resting, rooted, calm, a quiet flame burning gently in the center of their being, a flame that feels both tender and strong, both comforting and clarifying, both peaceful and luminous. This is the heart of revelation, not loud, not forceful, but steady, certain, a presence that fills the soul with a knowing beyond thought, a wisdom that emerges not from effort, but from nearness to God. The traveler remains still in the lamplit room, eyes closed, hands open, breath slow and warm, and inside that peaceful stillness, a deeper clarity begins to bloom. A clarity that is not about answers alone, but about the nature of wisdom itself, about the way God guides, about the way truth settles gently into a quiet heart. The traveler inhales slowly, drawing the warmth inward, and as they exhale, a new tenderness enters their awareness, the recognition that God has not merely given them wisdom, He has drawn near to them in love, He has met them in their confusion, He has filled the empty spaces with His presence, and it is this nearness, more than anything else, that makes wisdom possible. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale deepen the warmth in your chest. Let the exhale loosen the thoughts that cling too tightly. Let the soul soften into surrender. Let the quiet deepen until it feels like holy ground. Another slow breath, warm, steady. Inside the traveler, something sacred begins to form, a sense that wisdom is not a puzzle to solve, not a prize to earn, not a secret reserved for the strong, but a gift, a quiet gift placed gently into the hands of those who draw near to God, a gift wrapped in peace, bound in trust, shaped by love. This realization begins to radiate through the traveler, spreading across the mind like soft light touching the edges of a long shadow, softening old fears, easing lingering doubts, smoothing out the jagged lines left behind by worry. The more the traveler rests in God's nearness, the clearer everything becomes, not because every question is answered, but because the presence of God makes the questions feel lighter, less threatening, less overwhelming, as though the heart finally understands that wisdom is not found through anxious searching, but through peaceful surrender. The lamplight glows quietly against the clay walls, its golden warmth echoing the warmth within the traveler's chest. The shadows move softly around them, stretching long and gentle across the floor. Everything in the room seems to breathe with the traveler, matching their soft inhale, their peaceful exhale, as though the world itself is honoring this sacred moment of quiet revelation. In the listener's quiet space, this same gentle truth may begin to settle, a sense that what the heart has been craving is not merely answers, but nearness, not merely understanding, but peace, not merely clarity, but connection with the God who gives generously, without reproach, without hesitation, without limit. Another slow breath. Let the inhale carry peace into every hidden space within you. Let the exhale soften the mind into openness. Let the soul rest fully in the presence that guides, heals, illuminates. The traveler feels a new stillness descend upon them, a stillness not empty, but full, overflowing with quiet certainty, the certainty that God is with them, the certainty that they are not wandering alone, the certainty that wisdom has entered their spirit, even if the full understanding has not yet taken shape. Their heart whispers softly, without words, "I trust you, lead me, I will follow," and in response, the warmth inside deepens, the peace settles more fully. The soul becomes anchored in a quiet that feels immovable, unshakable, a stillness that holds the promise of guidance, of clarity, of wisdom that will unfold in gentle, perfect timing. This is the deep stillness, the sacred calm that comes when the heart draws near to God and finds Him near in return, a stillness that does not depend on circumstances, a stillness that does not fear the unknown, a stillness that becomes the foundation upon which wisdom is built. The traveler breathes once more, slow, full, peaceful, and within that breath is the quiet knowledge that they have entered a holy rest, a rest that prepares them for whatever understanding God will reveal next, a rest that steadies the soul before the path becomes clear, a rest that holds them gently in divine peace. The deep stillness within the traveler grows even more serene, a slow, velvety quiet that settles over the heart like a soft blanket laid gently across weary shoulders. Nothing presses now, nothing pulls, Nothing stirs with urgency. The soul has entered a sacred rest, a holy quiet where wisdom can root itself deeply, where peace unfurls in long, gentle waves, where the presence of God feels near enough to touch, near enough to breathe with, near enough to steady every fragile part of the spirit. The traveler sits unmoving, not from discipline, not from effort, but because the body has surrendered to peace, muscles loose, shoulders soft, hands resting open in quiet humility, breath flowing like warm wind across still fields, slow and deep and beautifully calm. A warm glow lingers in the traveler's chest, no longer flickering, no longer shifting shape, but resting steadily, a constant source of light that radiates through the ribs, through the breath, through the quiet valleys of the mind. This is the light of God's nearness, a light that asks nothing, demands nothing, simply remains, faithful and gentle, a companion for the soul entering deep rest. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale rise softly into the heart like warm light bending through a quiet window. Let the exhale melt downward, loosening every remaining thread of tension. Let your entire being soften. Let the noise fall away. Let the peace settle until it feels like part of your breath. Another slow breath, deep, unhurried. In this profound stillness, the traveler begins to feel something new, a quiet grounding, a gentle strengthening in the very center of their being. Not energy, not urgency, but a calm rootedness, the kind that comes when the soul knows it is held by God, protected, guided, seen without judgment, loved without limits. The room around them reflects this peace. The lamplight glows softly along the walls, smoothing the shadows into tender curves. The night breeze slips through the window in gentle breaths. Cool, steady, comforting. Even the silence feels alive, filled with presence, filled with God's quiet compassion, filled with the assurance that the traveler does not sit alone in the darkness. This is the descent into deep stillness, the place where anxieties dissolve, where thoughts settle like soft dust drifting slowly to the ground, where the heart lets go of striving and enters the rest it was created for, a rest built not on answers, but on God's nearness, a rest that holds the traveler tenderly in its hands. In the listener's quiet room, this same depth of stillness may begin to unfold, a heaviness, not of burden, but of peace, settling gently over the chest, a warmth gathering beneath the ribs, a sense that the world outside has grown distant, soft, muted, and the inner world has become calm, centered, resting safely within the presence of God. Another slow breath. Let the inhale feel like a soft, warm hand resting on the heart. Let the exhale feel like the release of weight you have carried too long. Let your body sink deeper into stillness. Let your soul settle into peace. Inside the traveler, the quiet strengthens. A silence so deep it feels like the beginning of something holy. A silence that is not empty, but full of God's gentle presence. The kind of silence that heals the mind without words. The kind that restores the heart without instruction. The kind that prepares the soul for guidance not yet revealed. The traveler's breath slows even further, barely more than a soft rise and fall. Their face smooths into a peaceful softness. The warmth inside them glows like a steady ember, a reminder that God's wisdom is near, that the next steps will be guided, that nothing has been forgotten or overlooked. This deep calm carries a quiet promise, a promise that the path will unfold when the heart is ready, that clarity will come in God's timing, that wisdom will rise gently from this place of rest, not from striving, not from fear, but from peace, from trust, from surrender. The traveler remains in the stillness, resting in the quiet presence that surrounds them, and within that sacred quiet, their spirit whispers, "I am held," and heaven answers with silence. The holy kind, the kind that wraps the heart in warmth, the kind that steadies the soul in perfect peace, the kind that assures without speaking, "I am here." The stillness deepens into something even more tender, A quiet so soft it feels like the world has exhaled and settled into silence. Not an empty silence, but a holy one, a silence alive with presence, a silence that feels like being gently cradled in the hands of God. The traveler rests fully within it, their breath slow and low, their heart steady and warm, their mind quiet as a field under starlight, every part of them softened into peace, every worry dissolved into quiet, every question resting in the warmth of surrender. The glow inside the traveler no longer feels like a small light. It feels like a gentle embrace from within, warmth around the ribs, calm along the spine, a tender fullness in the chest, as if the soul itself has been wrapped in a soft mantle of divine peace. Wisdom has not yet spoken clearly, but the heart is ready. The space within is open. The quiet has become deep enough for God's voice to be heard, not as sound, but as gentle certainty, soft assurance, presence that speaks without words. The traveler breathes in, a slow, deep inhale flowing like warm air into deep caverns of the heart, and breathes out, a long, unhurried release that seems to empty the body of every last trace of tension. Their posture shifts slightly, a small sinking into comfort, a subtle settling into trust, as if the soul is lying down in green pastures, resting beside still waters, resting in God. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale move gently into your chest like starlight drifting down through a quiet night. Let the exhale fall like soft waves breaking on a peaceful shore. Let your thoughts drift. Let your spirit rest. Let the stillness deepen until it feels like a safe shelter around your heart. Another slow breath, soft, soothing. In the quiet, the traveler senses something unfolding. Not a revelation yet, but the space for revelation, a widening within, a gentle openness expanding like ripples through a calm lake. Their spirit feels spacious, vast, capable of receiving whatever God desires to reveal. The heart is no longer clenched. The mind is no longer crowded. The soul is no longer braced against uncertainty. Everything within them has softened, rested, opened. The lamplight glows warmly on the walls, its soft radiance forming gentle halos along the room. The shadows stretch in long, peaceful lines, blending with the dark in a harmony that feels almost musical. Even the night breeze through the window seems slower, calmer, as though nature itself has entered this sacred descent into rest. In the listener's quiet room, this same descent may be felt, a heaviness, not of burden, but of peace, settling across the body, a slow melting in the chest, a softening behind the eyes, a growing sense that everything within is preparing for something holy, a whisper of divine nearness woven into every breath. Another slow breath. Let the inhale lift you gently into the quiet. Let the exhale carry you deeper into rest. Let the stillness become a sanctuary, a place where your soul can lie down without fear, without pressure, without expectation. The traveler's head tilts slightly forward, not from thought, but from surrender, as if the heart bows quietly before God's presence, as if the soul bends softly into the hands that hold it. Their palms remain open, resting gently in their lap, a posture that mirrors the state of their spirit, open, yielded, ready. Inside the deep quiet, the traveler senses a movement, not external, but internal, a warmth beginning to gather more deeply, a slow, steady expansion of peace, as though God is preparing to speak, preparing to guide, preparing to place wisdom gently within the heart. The traveler waits, not anxiously, but peacefully, trusting that whatever comes next will be good, true, perfectly timed. This is the sacred descent, the moment before revelation, the deep quiet where the soul rests in God and God rests within the soul. A holy hush that prepares the heart for what it is about to receive, a stillness that whispers, "Be at peace, I am with you, you are ready." The quiet inside the traveler settles into its deepest form yet, a stillness so profound it feels like resting at the bottom of a calm sea. weightless, held, surrounded by warmth that does not press or confine, but supports, cradles, lifts the heart with gentle steadiness. This is the stillness where God's presence becomes unmistakable, not as sound, not as vision, but as peace so deep it feels alive, as comfort so warm it feels like being embraced from within. The traveler's breath becomes slow and heavy, falling into a rhythm shaped by rest rather than effort, each inhale a soft rising through quiet light, each exhale a slow sinking into deeper calm. Their body feels warm, grounded, safe, as though the weight of gravity itself has softened to hold them with tenderness. No tension remains in the shoulders, no tightness lingers behind the ribs, even the small muscles around the eyes relax into the hush. Everything in the traveler is resting, everything is quiet, everything is ready. The inner warmth that has been growing throughout the night begins to pool gently in the center of the chest. A soft, glowing presence that feels like the very breath of God resting within them. Not moving, not urging, simply being, a steady heartbeat of divine peace that spreads outward through every corner of the spirit. This is the nearness that brings true rest. The nearness that speaks louder than words. A nearness that tells the soul, you are safe, you are seen, you are held. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale move into your chest like warm light drifting through a quiet dawn. Let the exhale fall like soft dust settling on still earth. Let the peace deepen. Let the quiet sink beneath your ribs. Let every part of you rest in this gentle presence. Another slow breath, soft, restful. The traveler remains motionless, not from discipline, but because the body and soul have entered full surrender. A surrender filled not with weakness, but with trust. A surrender that feels like freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from the need to understand everything. Freedom from the pressure that once weighed heavy on the heart. In this depth of stillness, the traveler senses God holding them, not metaphorically, but truly, quietly, tenderly, as though the very atmosphere has become the embrace of the one who loves them most. Their breath matches this embrace, slow, warm, peaceful, as if the body itself has learned the rhythm of divine comfort. The lamplight glows softly across the walls, its warm flicker echoing the gentle glow inside the traveler. Shadows stretch like soft brushstrokes along the floor. The breeze slips in through the window in long, calm breaths. Nothing in the room disturbs the quiet. Everything seems woven into the same sacred stillness. A stillness that feels holy. A stillness that feels like the heart of God resting over the space. In the listener's room, this same quiet may begin to press softly against the edges of the soul, not with weight, but with warmth, a heaviness shaped by comfort, by peace, by the kind of rest that washes through the body like gentle waves, a rest that eases thought, slows breath, softens every inner ache. Another slow breath. Let the inhale drift through you like warm wind through tall grass. Let the exhale release everything you no longer need to carry. Let your body grow heavy with peace. Let your spirit settle deeper into rest. Inside the traveler, something beautiful unfolds. Not revelation yet, but readiness. A readiness so deep it feels like the earth beneath them has steadied, as though the foundation of their spirit has been anchored in God's quiet strength. There is no fear now, no doubt, no urgency, only peace. Peace so complete it feels like a sanctuary built within the heart. And in that sanctuary, the traveler senses a whisper, not heard with ears, but felt with the soul. A whisper shaped like peace itself. A whisper that seems to hold their entire being with gentle certainty. Rest. I am here. You are ready. The traveler exhales with a soft tremor of emotion, a release that feels holy, a quiet acknowledgement that they have reached the deepest calm, the place where wisdom can finally descend, where the heart is soft enough to receive, where God speaks into open hands and surrendered spirits. This is divine rest, the deep, sacred stillness where revelation prepares to unfold, where the soul rests completely in God, where nothing is rushed, nothing is forced, everything simply is, held, loved, guided. The deep stillness begins to shift, not breaking, not fading, but opening, like the soft parting of clouds to let the first gentle light of morning pass through. A quiet, holy movement that signals something sacred is approaching. A tender stirring within the traveler's spirit, a warmth rising just slightly, lifting like a lantern beginning to glow a little brighter in the dawn. This is the moment wisdom begins to descend, not suddenly, not forcefully, but in a soft, steady unfolding, a revelation shaped entirely by peace. The traveler's breath deepens, slow, warm, reverent, their chest lifting gently with each inhale, as though drawing in light, and falling softly with each exhale, releasing the last fragile threads of uncertainty. The body remains heavy with rest. The mind remains quiet. The heart remains open and surrendered. This openness creates space, a sacred inner space where God's guidance can finally land, where clarity can take form without resistance, where wisdom can speak without competing with fear. The warmth inside the traveler intensifies just slightly, a gentle expansion spreading outward from the center of the chest, radiating into the shoulders, down the arms, along the spine, a warm current of peace that carries with it a sense of knowing, a recognition that God is about to place something precious into the soul, not answers alone, but comfort, direction, assurance. Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale lift through your body like dawn light rising across quiet hills. Let the exhale fall like warm air settling over a peaceful valley. Let the heart widen. Let the mind soften. Let the soul receive what is drawing near. Another slow breath, warm, welcoming. Inside the traveler, the revelation begins gently, not as sentences, not as fully formed thoughts, but as a serene, inner certainty, a clarity that feels like it is blooming from within, a truth rising quietly from the warm depths of the heart, a truth shaped by God's nearness rather than by the mind's effort. The traveler senses it, a soft understanding, that God delights in giving wisdom, that He has been near this entire time, that He has been guiding the heart long before the traveler recognized it. That every moment of stillness, every breath of surrender, every softening of fear, was preparing them for this gentle unfolding of truth. The lamplight glows brighter against the wall, as though reflecting the quiet light rising within the traveler. Shadows soften further. The room feels filled with warmth, filled with presence, filled with a peace so deep it nearly brings tears to the surface, not from sorrow, but from relief, from gratitude, from the realization that God has met them here, exactly where they are, with tenderness unmatched, in the listener's quiet room. This same revelation may begin to shimmer inwardly, a gentle certainty forming in the chest, a quiet knowing that wisdom is not far, that God is generous, that His nearness is the doorway to understanding, that clarity is not something to chase, but something to receive, softly, gently, in perfect peace. Another slow breath. Let the inhale shimmer through your heart like soft morning light. Let the exhale release into the truth that you are being guided, that wisdom is at hand, that God is near. The traveler feels the revelation settle deeper now, a truth taking shape with tender clarity. Wisdom is not only guidance for decisions. It is the assurance of God's presence in every step. A warmth spreads through the traveler's chest, a steady, grounding warmth that holds them from within, and with it comes the understanding that they are not walking blindly, that God walks before them, beside them, within them, whispering peace into every unsettled place, illuminating each step with gentle light, a light that will guide them when the path grows dim, a light that will comfort them when questions rise, a light that will remind them they are never alone. The traveler's face softens. Their posture sinks deeper into peace. A small, almost imperceptible smile touches their lips, a smile shaped by relief, by trust, by the sweetness of knowing that God is not distant, but intimately near, that wisdom is not withheld, but given with love, that every breath in this quiet night has drawn them closer to the heart of the one who guides them. This is peaceful closure, the moment where revelation settles fully into the soul, where understanding becomes rest, where the heart leans gently into the truth that God is good, generous, attentive, and forever near to those who seek Him. The warm glow within the traveler settles into a serene fullness, no longer rising or shifting, but resting, deep, steady, complete, a quiet radiance that fills the entire chest like a gentle flame sheltered from every wind. This is the fullness of peace, the peace that follows revelation, the peace that signals the heart has received what it needed, the peace that only God can give, soft, abiding, unwavering. The traveler's breath moves in long, slow waves, their chest rising with warmth, falling with surrender, their entire body resting heavier into the woven mat beneath them, as though gravity itself has softened to cradle them, as though every part of them has finally found a place to rest. Not just the body, but the mind, the spirit, the heart. The lamplight glows gently against the quiet walls, no flickering, no sharpness, only a soft, warm halo that wraps the room in calm. The shadows stretch in tender curves along the floor. The night breeze moves through the window with the quiet rhythm of sleep. Everything feels softened, everything feels safe, everything feels held. This is the place where the soul rests after wisdom has touched it, not with noise, not with dramatic change, but with peace so deep it feels like a lullaby whispered into the heart, a peace that says, "You have sought, and you have been answered. You have drawn near, and you have been met. You have opened your heart, and God has filled it with light." Take a slow, deep breath. Let the inhale move through you like warm dawn light filling a quiet field. Let the exhale release into a softness that carries you towards sleep. Let every muscle grow heavy. Let every thought drift. Let your spirit rest in the presence that surrounds you. Another slow breath, deep, quiet. The traveler remains in perfect stillness, not because they are searching, not because they are waiting, but because they are resting, resting in the truth that God has drawn near, resting in the peace that wisdom has already begun to unfold, resting in the gentle assurance that they do not walk alone, and never will. A soft tenderness blooms inside their chest, a gratitude without words, a warmth like quiet tears without sadness, a fullness that feels like being gently held from the inside. The presence of God resting over them, under them, within them, a presence that lingers like a warm hand placed gently on the heart. They inhale slowly, feeling the peace deepen, then exhale into a quiet release that feels like surrender made perfect. No fear, no pressure, no confusion, only trust, only rest, only God. In the listener's quiet room, a similar peace may begin to settle, a heaviness that is soft, comforting, and warm, a drifting of thoughts towards stillness, a sense that the soul is being gently carried into rest. This is the peace God gives to those who draw near, a peace that steadies, a peace that comforts, a peace that prepares the heart for sleep. Another slow breath. Let the inhale rise as softly as a whisper. Let the exhale fall like a gentle curtain lowering over the night. Let your body sink deeper into rest. Let your mind drift into quiet. Let your heart float in peace. The traveler lies back slowly, the woven mat holding them in gentle support. Their eyes remain closed. Their breath remains warm and slow. The glow inside their chest remains steady, a companion for the night, a soft flame of divine presence that will not dim as sleep approaches. They feel God's nearness like a blanket wrapped around their entire being, a warmth that promises protection through the night, a comfort that promises guidance in the morning, a peace that promises they are never alone and will never be without wisdom, for they have drawn near to God, and He has drawn near to them. The traveler's final conscious breath. Before sleep is deep, warm, peaceful, a breath that carries gratitude, trust, and quiet joy. Their heart whispers into the stillness, "I am held," and the night answers with silence, holy, gentle silence, the kind that rocks the soul softly into sleep. The story closes in rest, wrapped in God's nearness, cradled in His peace, held in His unending love. Thank you for resting in this story tonight. May God's peace surround you. May His wisdom guide you. May His presence stay close as you drift into deep, gentle sleep.